LGB. 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 LGB.
They say LGB everywhere I go. LGB. What it means, I don't know. LGB. Whatever it is. LGB. Kamala, help me, please. Please.
Alrighty then.
I like you. LGB.
That's let's go, Brandon, right?
LGB.
This means let's go, Brandon.
No. LGB.
Sounds like let's go, Brandon, I guess.
LGB. All right.
Let's go, Brandon.
I am Cornholio.
Chant
LGB.
right wing and left wing.
LGB.
So you know the thing.
LGB.
If you don't sing that back
LGB.
and you ain't black.
LGB.
Let's go, Brandon.
LGB.
Let's go, Brandon.
LGB.
Let's go, Brandon.
FJB. Let's go, Brandon.
I'm Joe Biden, and I
Forgot
this message.
Greetings, my dear friends. Welcome to another episode of Reading Epic Threads. It has been the Christmas rush, and so I haven't had all that many episodes to show you because, quite frankly, I've been trying desperately to keep up with the Christmas rush. But thank you so much for your patience, and I have a really great show for you today because just recently I came to the attention of a thread about Matt Gaetz and the dude who was essentially I guess, smearing him and smearing others. And it was a lengthy, brilliant thread by a Twitter user named The Village Crazy Lady. And it was an absolutely brilliant thread. It got featured on Candace Owens. It got featured all over the place. And just an outstanding researcher located out on the East Coast. And I had a chat with Mel, The Village Crazy Lady, and we made plans to come do a show today. And without further ado, I think I'll just bring in the wonderful Mel, also known as the Village Crazy Lady. Mel, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Thank goodness. And this is StreamYard. And this morning around 8 a.m., StreamYard was muting all streams and everybody was completely muted. It was a huge technical glitch. And we had to make do, but we're fine now. And you sound great. And I'm assuming everybody can hear me as well. Everybody hit that thumbs up and just share it and do all the things and share it on social media. Mel, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
And thank you so much.
It's been raining and cold.
What's that?
Oh, I said it's been raining and cold here, but today was like, well, 60, which is a lot warmer than it has been. So that's better, I guess.
Oh, we're dropping into the 50s, and tonight we'll get into the 30s, and I'm kind of excited about it, and my wife is not.
No, not at all.
I love it. It's free air conditioning as far as I'm concerned.
You're in Texas, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I can. You know what's funny about North Carolina is that I went to Raleigh in the middle. They call it the Research Triangle, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I went there in the middle of the summer to go to NetApp or some tech company, and there's all those tech companies over there, and it made Texas look perfectly temperate by comparison. It was the most hellish summer weather I've ever experienced in my life. I walked outside at 7 o'clock in the morning and it was 93 degrees in the shade. I'm sure it's an outlier for that area, but I kind of glad not to go back.
No, it's so funny. I lived in Texas for about a year. Well, actually, it was close to 2 years. And when I first moved here, it was August, and it was San Antonio, and everyone was like, "How are you doing? Are you okay?" And I was like, "This is fine. This is nothing." The humidity is just, and I love it. I love the humidity. I love how intense it is. So I'm like a really weird. I know that.
So anyway, I just wanted to introduce my audience to you and me to your audience, and we'll share this on all our various platforms. But the reason I wanted to bring you in and do a show with you is not just because of that amazing thread that you wrote that Candace featured and so many people retweeted about Matt Gaetz, although that was great. I read that out loud on my show, word for word, and everybody loved it. But it's just kind of a quest of mine to find people in the so-called influencer space who are real people, rather than people who, for lack of a better description, people who are part of the system in one way or another. Now, I'm never going to accuse well, yes, I will, but I try not to accuse individual users of these platforms as being, part of the system. But at the same time, let's just throw out an example. One of my favorite people to watch, Candace Owens. She's on YouTube and she has 3.5 million subscribers. And she talks about every forbidden subject there is. If I say my opinion, which is a valid opinion, that there is no such thing as a pathogenic virus, I get my account, I get a strike on YouTube immediately. There are algorithms in there listening for that. I'm sorry, but that doesn't happen to Candace. She says whatever the hell she wants. So I look for real people, and you seem to be a real person, not somebody who's going on Twitter and getting $21,000 payouts from the algorithm. God love Elon, but there's something going on there. But
Right.
it's really obvious that you are one of the real people out there, and we have to kind of find each other and kind of support each other and stick together and cross promote our content.
Yeah, so I think that there's like a two-part there. Obviously, there's something that goes on, and people like Candace, they do get away with more. I do think that there are areas that she can't go into, and you see she walks a real fine line on a lot of things. Something I've noticed as like my account on X has grown is I do actually think that they let me get away with a lot more, because if they censored, it would trigger people,
Okay.
things that tweets, and I have a lot of quote unquote controversial views. I'm just like hardcore America first, America only, period. If I don't care what it is, if I think it's going to be bad for America, I speak out against it. And so what I've noticed is like things that would normally maybe have gotten me, a tweet would have been slowed down, no traffic, but now all of a sudden the reach goes further, maybe not, as far as some, but it does. So.
Oh yeah. Look at this. Okay. So this is a pin. So everybody, first of all, those of you who are here, follow Village Crazy Lady on X. Now it's VILLGE. So just take the A out of Village and it's Village Crazy Lady minus the A in Village. Really, really great follow. Really, really great research. This thread on Matt Gaetz, what actually happened, outstanding stuff. But just in general, it's nice to see somebody out there doing this research, because I'm not really a researcher. I'm more of a person who hunts down other people's research and then features it. Although, at least I credit them.
Yeah. What's really interesting is that on your feed, it says that the Gaetz view has 11.8 million views, but on my feed, it's at 12 million. I don't know. That's weird to me.
All right. So 11.8 versus 11.
Right. It's
11,
just,
it says 11 million flat.
Yeah. And so on mine, it says 12 million.
All right. I'm going to hit refresh. See if there's
weird. Yeah. It does weird stuff like that. Yeah, it's been sitting at 12 million for me for probably since about 3 days after. The numbers have never gone up. I actually don't believe them, because I've had really big accounts share it after that, and the numbers never budged. And
it's so interesting.
Right.
So just for those of you in the audience who are not extremely active on social media, so I do this for a living. This is my job now. I got kicked out of Silicon Valley back in 2017, and I've been clawing and scraping. I had a little bit of money set aside. I had the unbelievable fortune of having a mother who was perfectly fine with me moving back home, and I worked my ass off. But I do this for a living. And so those of us who do this for a living, we have to look at it all the time and figure out who's getting suppressed, because right after Trump was elected, all hell broke loose on social media, and all of a sudden the Eye of Sauron started panicking and banning people left and right. And we always tried to figure it out. What the hell is going on? And the first thing we learned is YouTube and Twitter and these platforms do not give a crap about profit and loss. It's not about money for them, and it never was. And that's very hard to get across to normal people.
Right. Yeah. Once you realize that, I mean, obviously they need money to run, but the value is in the power that they have, because they can overthrow governments. They can force people into a lockdown to lock themselves in their homes for 6 weeks. They can force them to take, experimental vaccines that aren't even vaccines, that have no efficacy whatsoever. They can whip them into a frenzy and get them to burn entire cities down. I mean, the power in the algorithm cannot even really be quantified, I think, for most people.
Yeah, I consider money and power to be fungible in a certain way, but there are distinctions. In the end, though, the actual monetary value of being able to use a social media platform to topple governments, very difficult to quantify. But I'll tell you something, it's worth a hell of a lot more than $44 billion.
Yeah, it sure is.
I don't think it's worth in the billions. I think it's worth in the trillions, which also makes the entire purchase of Twitter look very strange and theatrical to me.
Right. I mean, part of me I do get it. I mean, he purchased 13%, 14%.
Oh, I thought he had a controlling interest.
I think when he adds it up, but he himself maybe only owns like 13%.
Okay.
I believe. I could be wrong on that. You can, of course, check me.
The thing is, how are we supposed to know? I can ask ChatGPT, I can ask Google, but all that is numbers on my screen.
Right. So from what I understand, there's like a coalition behind him that they have. Basically he put it together. He owns this chunk, but then he kind of became the face of their investment. And because I know when TikTok got banned, or when that bill passed, there was some worry about that, because he has Saudi investors. He has investors of the UAE, I believe it is.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And whatnot. And so it was like, as far as like foreign adversaries go, controlling that. Mm-hmm. And so clearly they must have gotten some assurances behind closed doors, because he hasn't mentioned it since. But it's worth. I think that really, though, what Elon wanted was he wanted a way in to into the system. Obviously, he's foreign. He's never going to be able to be president. Being foreign born and whatnot. So. But I think he just wanted a gate into that world, and he got it. Definitely. I mean, clearly, I don't know if you saw today that he's buying property down next to Mar-a-Lago.
I had no idea.
Yeah. Well, or maybe not buying, but he's shopping for it. That was a headline. I read. Really
exciting. And I don't want to poo-poo the victory of November 5th.
No. Yeah. I mean, it was the greatest comeback of all time. I mean, it's just incredible what they've put the man through, and he's still standing. It is commendable. I mean, it's inspiring even, I mean, he just does not give up.
Very, very true. And, the best is yet to come, as he told us I don't know if you're familiar with the devolution hypothesis from John Harold, which basically argues that Donald Trump enacted a continuity of government operation upon the stolen election immediately. He fired Mark Esper. He hired Christopher Miller as the acting Secretary of Defense, Ezra Cohen Watnick as the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence, and the Undersecretary of Defense for Low Intensity Conflict. and issued a bunch of executive orders about continuity of government right before the inauguration. Continuity of government, COGCON, the system, which is like DEFCON, but for continuity of government, it went all the way to COGCON 2, and then all of a sudden it just started sending out continuity of government emails. So there's an enormous body of evidence that indicates that Trump didn't really just walk away, and that he actually put in place a shadow government that completely prevents the Biden administration from burning the country to the ground, which is why, in my opinion, a lot of things that a real Biden administration wouldn't have done were allowed to happen. But with that being said, now that Trump is actually coming back, do you have like a feeling of optimism about the future?
Well, we'll see. I haven't been super encouraged by a lot of the appointments that he's made. He's got some of the priorities that it seems that these people have are not my priorities. Israel is not a priority of mine. And I get really bitter about the way that I feel like Israel is prioritized above America. I take a lot of issue with that. I express a lot of displeasure with that on my X account, which upsets a lot of people on the right, because they think like, there's this weird thing because obviously you have these far lefties, these like queers for Palestine or whatnot, and yeah. And so they automatically want to group you with them. And those people like hate America and they talk about, and I'm like, no, I can sympathize with the Palestinian plight. I do think they've been handed a raw deal in a lot of ways. I can also really recognize though, because a lot of people around the world have been handed raw deals. But the problem is that the US government isn't 100% funding, propping up, trading all of our soft power in order for those tyrannical governments to screw their people over. So it's very different. I don't like that my government is involved in any of this. I want them totally out. But more importantly, I do not like the way that Republicans specifically continuously trade soft power in the interest of Israel over America. And so I see this all the time. And in Ukraine too, we see it in Ukraine as well. But oddly enough, there is like at least a tiny constituency within the Republican Party that opposes the Ukraine madness. Whereas on, Israel, there's just none. And it's maddening. I've never seen anything like it. And then when you even do see a couple people stand up, you just see that, like you saw Thomas Massey do it. And it was just incredible the way he was attacked and vilified, and really preemptively, AIPAC went after him preemptively to cut off his ambitions should he try to take Mitch McConnell's seat in 2026. They were running statewide ads against him this past time. And so that's really infuriating, because Massey isn't any kind of like, Jew hater or whatnot. He's literally just America first. And no, we're not sending money anywhere. I'm never going to vote to send money to you. I don't care what country you are. And so I take a lot of issue with that. And I don't like what I've seen thus far, but I'm always consoled by the fact that Trump is his own man. And at the end of the day, he really doesn't give a crap if he'll fire them in a heartbeat. We saw that the first time around. If he didn't like it, bye.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
One of the things I noticed when Donald Trump was first inaugurated, the first thing I expected was that he would begin work on the wall, because he had the Republican House, he had the Republican Senate, and he had the White House. And then they stopped him. In fact, we learned so much about fiscal responsibility from our swampy Republicans and swampy Democrats, who all of a sudden, because apparently the budget, the line item was like $5.6 billion they wanted for it.
8 years on, it just sounds like nothing. It's like peanuts. We just $5-6 billion. They just throw that around, on the daily.
I also think that it was a coincidence, not really a coincidence, but coincidentally, the exact aid given to Israel that year was $5.6 billion.
Yeah. Just
to kind of indicate, yeah, you are our captives. And that's what I felt like at that moment. We're captives. To
be fair to Trump, and that was actually, so 3.5 billion of that was signed into law under Obama, and we contractually obligated for 3.5 per year. It was, or 3.8 per year, because it was a 38 billion for 10-year thing. But then our Republicans that year came in, and then they added the supplemental on top, which was just for the Iron Dome, which was like another 1.5 or whatever, it added up to be, which was just.
Well, I'm not in any way blaming Donald Trump for any of this. The United States Congress can hold the entire military hostage in exchange for all of their graft. So I didn't blame Trump for any of that. He came in, he had to deal with Paul Ryan. Back in 2007, I thought Paul Ryan was the cat's meow and that he was going to be the one to save us from all these evil socialists. I just learned that they all get captured at some point. And I don't want to cast aspersions too much because I've never been in their shoes. I don't know what they face when they go to Washington, what kind of temptations they face, and what kind of, compromise gets done on them immediately. I mean, we're seeing just definite stories, at least, of people getting drugged and then all of a sudden having incredibly compromising videos made of them. And I'm sure that can happen to some people. But at the same time, I know that Trump went in there knowing how bad it was. I don't know it, but I assume it because he's been around these people for so very long. He's been stone cold sober the entire time. He came down the escalator, and they started just freaking out in a way that I have never seen before in my life. And they dialed it up to 11 when he actually became president and stopped him right in his tracks. And everything fell apart all at once. Every single institution that I thought I could rely upon was unreliable. Donald Trump issued an executive order that said, hey, we're going to suspend immigration from these 6 countries until we figure out how to vet people coming in from these countries. And Chuck Schumer essentially started just bawling in public about it.
What was so bizarre was the fact that was actually just an extension from a proposal that Obama had already drafted, and they just added 2 extra countries. And I think they changed the language just slightly. It was so preposterous. Their response was so over the top that, and then of course, and thinking back now and then thinking the way that they went, from that to Russia and Ukraine and the impeachment and then COVID. And what they did with COVID was something that I don't think that even your wildest conspiracy theorist could have come up with that script. It was so just insane. I mean, I was one of those people. I was a day oneer. I would say, day one, I was calling it. I was like, what is going on? Nothing about this is right. I'm talking about January. I'm like, no, watching the videos out of China. This is weird. What's going on? And never once, I don't know if that's foolish or not. Perhaps it is, but I just didn't buy into any of it.
Yeah. Well, so
and
I think I might have worried about getting sick for the first couple of months. What happened to me was like 2019. I saw Donald Trump with his enemies completely on the ropes. The economy was humming along. All of his enemies kept failing. They were in a failure cascade. I think one of the examples of that failure cascade on the international stage was what was happening in Hong Kong at the time. The people of Hong Kong, in a non-Antifa color revolution kind of way. I could be wrong about that, but it didn't seem like a color revolution in Hong Kong. It seemed real, as if the people were saying, we've had enough. We're putting an end to this. And I thought to myself, there's no way out for these people now. It's over. And that's why I think they had to do COVID, because they were facing annihilation. Because COVID is like one of those buttons. When you press that button, you can't unpress it. You activate this entire propaganda apparatus that can convince the people, because they believe in germ theory, that can convince the people that their fellow human beings are poisonous.
Right. Yeah. So I have a theory on COVID. I kind of think it just happened to be, one of those things in life where it it served a lot of people's interests, not just, you have the Chinese, but then you also have American bankers. You have, Wall Street under collapse, and it's getting bailed out by the Fed in the overnight loan markets, to the point of, I think from August 2019 to January 2020, I believe it was almost $1 trillion that the Fed had already pumped into the overnight loan market. And they needed more. They ended up getting, with the CARES Act, $4.4 trillion. So they were struggling. So, and that's why you saw, Wall Street react the way that it did. I mean, we all remember Bill Ackman coming out crying on CNBC about, people are going to die if you don't shut the markets down. And he had shorted the market.
Wait. Bill Ackman, the good guy now?
Oh, yeah. Bill Ackman, who I cannot believe has never blocked me because I am as vile as I can possibly be to him, went on CNBC. Well, first of all, he shorted the market. He placed a huge short on the market. Then he went on CNBC, cried, real tears, demanded that President Trump shut down the country because this was going to kill people if he didn't. Never disclosed the fact that he had shorted the market, and then cleaned up with $1.2 billion when, of course, the market tanked when Trump called for the shutdown of the country. And that has all just been swept under the rug. I mean, there were some pieces written about it in late 2020, early 2021. But yeah, all of a sudden, when the whole 10/7 thing happened, that was another just bizarre thing that nobody's ever actually examined. And it seemed to really suit a lot of people's purposes. But yeah, that just got totally memory hold.
Well, it didn't get memory hold with me. I never knew it in the first place. So I didn't know who Bill Ackman was. All I knew was that in this recent era, he seems to be a very, very rich man saying nice things about Donald Trump. Is that accurate right now?
Kind of, yeah, but something I think that's really weird about Bill Ackman, because I track campaign finance all the time, is Bill Ackman didn't give any money that I know of. He may have given it to a separate PAC that maybe did some periphery support for Trump or whatnot. But Bill Ackman has always been a big Democrat donor, and he's always been like hardcore Democrat. And after in January, he actually gave $1 million to Dean Phillips to run against Biden in the primary, which you never even heard of. I think he only made it on the primary ballot in like 3 states. And so, it's weird. People say, oh, because people give me grief all the time. They're like, how can you support Trump? Because, Bill Ackman's backing him. And I'm like, well, I track the numbers all the time. And to my knowledge, and I'm pretty sure he still hasn't actually given him any money. So he gets all this credit for backing Trump, but I don't actually know what he's done.
I am positive that there are going to be some people on the Trump train right now whom I regard as pure evil. There's no question about that. I'll give you an example. Joe Rogan. So you have a problem with Bill Ackman. I have a problem with Joe Rogan. Back in like 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, he was a more conspiracy-oriented podcaster. He was more outside the mainstream. And one of the things that he definitely knew about was the link between the MMR vaccine and radically increased rates of autism. He knew this.
Mm-hmm.
He tweeted about it. He knew it. All right. Flash forward to when it counted with COVID. Okay. So
real quick. I'm so sorry. I stand corrected. Bill Ackman gave a committee for Trump $419,000 in September. So
okay.
one payment. And
nice chunk of change. Thank you for your support, Bill Ackman.
Just like $500,000. I mean, But again, this is the guy that gave $1 million to Dean Phillips 9 months prior. I mean, this is a billionaire, worth I think like $6 billion.
Yeah, it is literally chump change to him.
Right. Okay, but go on, please.
Yeah. So when it really, so these are the things that matter about influencers, the real influencers, the big ones, the people like Rogan. Rogan got what are we going to call this? Rogan got an 8-figure, possibly a 9. No, he got a 9-figure deal from Spotify.
Right. Yeah.
As if he wasn't rich enough already. And all of a sudden, right at the most important moment, March of 2020, that's when it mattered. That's when he needed to do the damage. And he went on a hateful rant about anti-vaxxers right at that moment, right after he got the deal from Spotify, saying that anti-vaxxers are crazy whack jobs and they ought to have their kids taken away from them.
Really?
Yeah. This is a dude who knew that vaccines were causing autism. He was 100% up on all of it. But in exchange for a big, big chunk of money, he sold out his trusting, largely young male audience into putting poisonous injections into their arm.
Right.
That's a scumbag right there.
Yeah. I don't even know what so when I first kind of like broke out or whatnot, I did a I did a thread on Letitia James, and it was on her campaign finance, and it made some waves. It got Elon's attention. He even commented on it. He didn't share it, but he did comment on it. And I got a lot of attention, and there were some people who were so cool, and they featured me, and it was, really awesome. But then there were others, like I got invited onto Newsmax, and then it's like somebody did like a search of my page and saw like that, that I was anti-Israel, and they ghosted me. They like literally stood me up on the night. I'm like ready. And then I started getting messages from people that said, you really need to tone it down if you actually want a future. Which for me, I'm like crazy. I'm like, that like totally threw me in the other direction. And, I focused on nothing but because I was angry. I was like, this is asinine to me. I'm like, if you're telling me that that you won't feature me and talk about I don't even need you to talk about, we don't have to talk about Israel. I don't even particularly enjoy talking about that. To be quite honest with you, I actually don't enjoy talking about anything that doesn't involve, that's not like in America, but it's an elephant in the room that we cannot ignore because our priorities are constantly shelved in order to serve their interests. So I have to talk about it, right?
Yep.
Because I am constantly getting people asking me, well, why aren't they doing anything? I'm like, well, that's probably because they made a deal that if they, if the Republicans didn't do this, then the Democrats would go along with this funding for this little pet project over here for the military industrial complex, whatever it is, whether it's Taiwan, Israel, Ukraine, freaking new barracks in the Philippines. I mean, that is their baby, and there is nothing that they will not shelf or distract from or, just totally sabotage if it means serving those interests. And so you have to talk about it,
Can you tell me about your experience having somebody tell you need to tone it down if you want to have a future? Because I've also thought to myself I could make a lot more money if I did play the game, but I've never actually had anybody say to me, you need to tone it down. Can you tell us about the being told tone it down?
Yeah, they say, we'd really like to feature you, but there's just, some things that, it's a third rail. Some of them are really honest, and I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but somebody, because they are trying to be honest with me, that this is just something they don't want to, but it wasn't just that. It was not even just like, don't tweet about it for a couple of days. It's like, you need to go through and clean out your stuff. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. I do. It's funny because I actually do that if I think that something might trip like a new TOS update. So I like routinely will go through and delete like real spicy, because I cuss a lot in my
I cuss a lot too.
In my posts, and I use the forbidden words sometimes, like the R word and
retard.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I say that word kind of reflexively.
Right. So I actually a couple. So it was in July 2023. I don't want to say anything that can get you flagged.
Say everything that will get me flagged, please.
Well, in July 2023, I put out a tweet that I was talking about the vaccine and the mandates and how it was forced on people. And I said, in a just country, that Joe Biden would be tried for crimes against humanity and executed. And
that's what got me kicked off Twitter the first time.
Yeah.
Saying that Joe Biden should be executed got me kicked off Twitter.
The E word is a trigger word. And it was so crazy because that was like, 20, this was before I knew that there were actual armies that are committed to searching your page with keywords and to flag you. But so it was like 6 comments in. I was I ended up finding common ground with somebody on that, in that thread, which I thought was a good thing. And then this was like a week later, my whole account is suspended. And
this was a Twitter account?
This was it's same Twitter account. I got it back.
Okay.
So it turns out, they said it was permanent. I appealed it 14 times, but I think actually what it was, I got put in jail for 30 days because on the 31st day, 14th appeal, is kind of funny. I just wrote poop on my thing. That was it. That was the only thing. I was just so annoyed. I just, like poop, period. And then like an hour later, they're like, oh, looks like we've made a mistake. You can have your account back.
What the hell? Twitter doesn't have a customer service department. They have a ministry of truth, and they still have a ministry of truth. I know that Elon let that sink in, et cetera, and I know he's done some good there, but the friggin' creeps are still running the block mechanism. They're just somehow being forced to take their hand off the accelerator.
Right. So I think what I learned, because what happened was I was actually permanently suspended under old Twitter for vaccine comments. Someone had posted, about the kids not getting their vaccines, like, a drop of like, 60% of children getting their vaccines. And I responded, or I quote tweeted them and I said, good, let's check the autism rate in a couple years. And that was like, boom, you are done, son. Yeah. And they deleted my account. So I didn't get it back. That was in, I guess maybe Elon, I don't know. I can't remember the time. It was maybe August of 2022. Then I think he had already bought it or whatnot. I don't remember. I don't remember how long I was off of there. Or no, actually it was August 2021 because I just used a fake one for a long time. Something like that. Mm-hmm. And then anyways, he did give me my account back. And then, again, 6 months later, I got suspended for that 30 days. And then now I just like will do searches of my stuff. And I'm like, oh, that's a little spicy. I don't want to deal with it. So I just delete it. It's already made its point. Nobody's looking at it. The only people that are going to see it now are people who are looking for something to harm me, or to try to slow my traffic down. It's, it's done. So I delete that, but I'm not deleting something because you told me to delete it, basically.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like you can get some insight into the algorithm, how you can, without actually censoring yourself on the topic or your opinions, but just changing your vocabulary to make it so that you can grow your account? What would you tell somebody like me who can't ever shut up?
So I would say, number one, make sure that you check all the lists that you're on, right? So you don't want to be, do you know how to do that?
No.
When you go to list, your little sidebar thing, there'll be a list. It'll say lists. If you can pull it up. So go to more. Go to more.
Go to
more.
More. Okay, there we go.
Lists. Okay. Now the little up in the corner there, right there. 1, 2, 3. Yep. Lists that you are on. Boom. These are all the lists that people have added you to, right? So
I'm on a list called stupid pieces of shit.
So you're gonna block that person, okay? Because what some of these, not all of them, but a lot of them, they're set up so that as soon as you tweet, they're going to see it and they're going to report that tweet. So boom, it's already getting shut down, getting slowed down. The algorithm.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So check your lists all the time. I do.
Well, maybe I should just block every single one of these people.
So I have two lists that I use. So I don't block people that follow me. If you follow me and you have me on a list that, yeah, I mean, I get added to anti-Semite neo-Nazi lists. Like I haven't checked it in a couple days. I'm probably on 20 of them right now. It's so stupid. And so, yeah, so those people automatically get blocked. But sometimes I'll go in if I'm bored and I'll look and see, because you can like find like a honeycomb. Really, you'll go in and you'll see, okay, this is actually part of another network, and you can block all of those people. But again, it's time consuming. But what I have found is that, so say I'm posting something a little bit spicy, and what will happen is I will get it'll get bookmarked like right away. Okay, and so once it gets bookmarked, I immediately edit. I edit the thing. I usually just take away a period or something, and then I repost. So now I'm taking off of their bookmark, and that actually seems to help a lot. So I edit it, and then I retweet immediately. And I know it's a game. It really is a game, and it's the only thing that I know how to do.
That's amazing. This is the very first time I've ever heard this. I'm not a real detail-oriented person. I mostly just start swinging and see what happens. So yeah, I want to try that. Block people who have me on the neo-Nazi list, because that would be probably a fairly. Is there anything else that you do that could help us?
So that helps editing if I'm getting bookmarked. Not cussing does help. It really does.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, the R word, it does, even though sometimes it's just really necessary. This is okay. There's no other way to say it. Okay.
So true.
Yeah. So that helps. But if I think if you're under about 40,000, they'll say under 10,000, but I really do think it's under 40,000 to comment. So set up a couple of accounts that are big accounts, put them on notifications, and then comment on their posts, because that really does help drive your engagement, and it does help build your following.
And don't just be a troll to those accounts.
Right. Like make good comments. If you make good comments, you will build, I mean, very quickly. When my account was smaller, that's all I ever did. And I would pick up, 10, 20 followers a day, just setting about 10 accounts to notifications. Also, and they have done a good job of cleaning up, but don't engage with period. Like just I block them when I see them. What is it? They're not engagement farmers. They're like the people like selling t-shirts and stuff like that. I don't even know what those people are called.
I don't know what they're called either. I wonder if they ever actually sell any t-shirts. Anybody who tries to sell something as a comment on my feed, I block.
Right. Yeah, I do too. Yeah, my space is not here for you to hawk your items.
Yeah, get your own.
I feel like they've gone away, but definitely just don't. And the other thing, and I go back and forth on this, because very often my favorite people are under show additional or potential spam. Like those are like the best comments,
Yep.
But it does slow your algorithm down. Now I'm in the fortunate position now that I don't actually care, like, because I have enough followers, like it'll just get boosted anyways, but it does. I mean, it just sucks, but it does. And so I try to tell people, like, if you just don't cuss, or if you just don't use, like if you just aren't mean, essentially, you're not going to get flagged like that, But right. At the same time, like, trust me, I mean, if you could hear me, I'm usually pretty mean.
What do you think about finding ways to be mean that the algorithm doesn't spot as mean?
Right. So that's why you'll see people like Cernovich or whatnot. They'll call people dum-dums or goobers and whatnot, because it doesn't. And it's true. I've called, my favorite is I like to call them illiterate spatulas.
The algorithm doesn't frown upon
No,
that?
algorithm does not have a problem calling someone an illiterate spatula.
Okay, fair enough. So if I call somebody, just like a rapscallion or
Yeah,
something.
a
Okay.
scoundrel. Yeah. That was yeah, you have to like go back, to
Yeah.
your 1920s insults.
I'm
But
down with that. I'm down with that.
Yeah.
So we got about 15 minutes left, and I really want to talk to you about your origin story because we all have one. Mine was Trump winning and reading the Podesta emails for the first time in late 2016, and it turned me essentially into the town nutter, the town crazy person. So tell us a little bit about how you became the village crazy lady, and we'll talk about that.
So I'm a political science major, but before I started like writing or blogging or anything like that, I actually owned a t-shirt business, and I did it out of my house. And I've actually never told this story before. You'll be the first person. I actually don't like to talk about it because it usually makes me really mad every time I think about it, but it is what it is, because it actually did get me where I am now. I don't really know if that's anywhere, but I started a business all by myself after I wanted to go to law school, and then I worked for an attorney as a paralegal for a couple of years. And then I decided I didn't want to go to law school anymore. And so I started this business. It was targeted towards moms going to Disney World, right? And so I started designing and selling, and sometimes I'd buy the designs, shirts that were not licensed. They weren't characters, but they would have like movie quotes on them, right? Or they would just be kind of like they'd say things like fairy godmother, right? And it'd have like all the stars and whatnot. And so it was like Disney themed, but not. So the moms would get it. And I started out on Etsy, and it got really big. I did really, really, really well. Like really well. And it's amazing. Like, you do a good job, you build up your business. And so I was in business for about 2 years. I was doing really, really good, looking to expand. And then COVID hit, and it just made everybody crazy, right? Yeah. So this girl that I knew, I made the mistake of defending Donald Trump to a woman on Facebook that I had known, I had gone to college with. She had gone on to be a lawyer. And we had gone to this like law prep thing when I was at UT San Antonio. So
wow.
I made the mistake of responding to her, defending Trump. And again, this is like, right, I don't know, like lockdowns are like 2 weeks in. And she like lost her mind. She like became obsessed with me, and she started trolling my Etsy account. And she got, I don't know what got into her. She filed a bunch of complaints against me, citing copyright. I wasn't violating anyone's copyright because I was like movie quotes, right? But she did them like 4 in a row. And it locked my account, and my account got deleted. And Etsy said that I had to sue her to prove that I wasn't in violation. I didn't have any, I had money, but I didn't have $100,000 to file a patent or a trademark suit. And even then, because I had made the mistake of using like names like Moana in the title, right? So like I had a t-shirt, again from Moana that like said something about the village crazy lady, because the grandma in Moana is the village crazy lady, right? And that's all it said, just village crazy lady. Like that was it, right? Yeah. So I said, Moana t-shirt for Disney, right? And so when I consulted with an attorney, they said, honestly, even though, because it's weird on Etsy, anyone can file a trademark complaint. And I had actually had one filed on me before from a lady who said that she trademarked pew 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 because I had made up a pew 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 shirt. Uh-huh. Which I'm like, I can't prove that she didn't do. I can't prove this. You should hire a
Now,
little.
in patent and trademark law, you can't patent common language
Right, right.
onomatopoeias.
Right. And so it becomes down to, she said that like basically the placement of my stars was like her. It was so dumb. So but that's when I learned that anyone could do it. But it was just super psycho
Yeah.
of this woman. She just, I don't know. I mean, obviously there were other issues going on with her, and it's a long story. There was, back and forth in DMs and whatnot. But so anyways, that totally ended that. I ended up actually like restarting my shop again. But then once you do that, when you're on like the blacklist, the naughty list, and anybody who knows, like if you've been kicked off of Twitter and you create a new account, basically they can delete your account at any time for ban evasion, right? And
Yeah.
so
But you created a new Etsy account.
I did, yeah. And so I was still, again, doing like really well because I had all this stuff, and I'm just really, I was good at it. I was really good at it.
If you don't mind me asking real quick, why didn't you switch over to a different?
So I did. I went to Amazon.
Amazon, brutal.
Yeah, actually, Amazon was a really different beast than Etsy, because Etsy's like a lot of like specialty orders. You have to be really patient with the people. Amazon is definitely much more business. It's not personal whatsoever. It was different, and I liked it, but honestly, like just kind of like having that ripped away from me and like destroyed the way that it was so hard and like devastating to just have something that you've built up for a couple years just get ripped away from you for over politics, really.
Yeah. It is remarkable. I'm dependent on one of these platforms as well.
Yeah.
And if that got ripped away from me, I would still have my website, because the website is still a domain name that I own, and they can't, fingers crossed, they can't take that away from me. And I could quickly fail over to a far less efficient e-commerce system. It would make labor more expensive. But if they banned me from this platform, I could survive because I make my products myself. But it is scary as hell. Like the owner of Badlands Media got kicked off of PayPal immediately when he wrote his Devolution series. It's just, we have a serious problem with the controllers of this world owning our asses.
Yeah, it is. And it's something that I feel really passionate about because I wasn't given any options to appeal. It was so, and I understand why they do that, because it happens all the time and they just probably can't keep up with it. But at the same time, I'm like, it's like I get it and I don't. I feel like, okay, yeah, you've got a problem with, Romanian trademark infringers, obviously, but like I'm a real American here. I feel like I should have like another track, but whatever. I mean, so anyway, so that kind of like spurred me, because of course I'm super stubborn. So it made me like actually want to go for Trump even more.
Yeah.
And plus I had the political science degree. And so I kind of became obsessed a little bit with COVID, with what happened. I started writing threads on Medicare, Medicaid fraud associated with remdesivir. I started writing and tracking the vaccine, the rollouts, the case numbers. I have so much stuff on my Twitter for COVID. I mean, that's really all I did. And then it kind of rolled into campaign finance, and it just kind of snowballed from there. But yeah, so I know you asked me the other day, where I got the name from. I told you I had the T-shirt, but I was actually at a Open Our Schools platform or protest, and it was like me and my sister and a friend, and there was only like 7 or 8 of us out there. And this is in August of 2020, and Roy Cooper had basically said that schools could open if they wanted to, and I of course I live in a blue county, so mine were like, we don't want to. And so we were trying to get him to make them open the schools. And some guy comes by and he rolls down, and it's like downtown Raleigh. And he's like, what are y'all out here for? And, he said, you want to open the schools? And I said, yeah, we do. And he said, you look like the village crazy ladies out here. And that was just so funny to me. Having the
Yes,
T-shirt.
yeah.
I got a T-shirt that proves I'm the village crazy lady. You know?
And it turns out that you were the sane one in a world that was going completely batshit and crazy. I had one of my closest friends, a MAGA patriot, real, like a dude who was waiting, just desperate for John Durham to execute the order and mass arrests could start. But the moment the television told him that there were little invisible little monsters trying to make him sick, he was 100% okay with shutting down the whole damn world. And he was okay with our disgusting Governor Greg Abbott issuing an executive order that says everybody has to wear a mask. It was a time of massive realization about my fellow man. And one of the reasons I think I got a little bit kind of fanboyish about Elon Musk was probably during maybe late 2020, early 2021. I was listening to an Elon Musk interview, and he said, Elon Musk said, I think one of the things that has happened in COVID is that my faith in humanity has been horribly shaken.
Yeah.
And that, I don't know if, he's a player on the world stage. He's an actor on the world stage. I have to take everything with a grain of salt with people that high up on the stage. But there was a real authenticity to it when he said, I lost faith in humanity. And I lost faith in humanity watching all of these people who claim they care about freedom, care about rights, all of a sudden, because the television told them there might be a flu bug, that they were willing to throw it all away. And they tried to. Oh my God, did they try to?
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, sorry. Oh goodness. I the same way, a lot of people hate Elon. I'm kind of indifferent on him. I don't think he's some kind of savior, but I don't actually think that he's like this villain either. I think he's probably just a really rich guy who I actually probably would like, to have a drink with, maybe.
I bet you he's way more charismatic in person than he is on TV, and he's pretty likable on TV. For me, he's kind of got that autistic, like weirdo thing about him.
The weird. He seems like he'd be a good listener, though, which is funny because everybody probably wants him to talk. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I don't have a lot of love or hate for Elon. I just mostly don't even really think about him, to be quite honest with you. But I know what interview you're talking about. And
good. Okay.
He was right, and COVID really kind of opened your eyes to see, I think, in a lot of ways, just how selfish a lot of people were, but also just critical thinking that just went straight out the window. Something that just never made any sense to me was, the 2 weeks to slow the spread. And it's like, okay, well, the problem is that you're also saying that the virus has a 2-week incubation period. So what's going to happen? And also, it's, spread asymptomatically. And also 80% of people are asymptomatic. I mean, this is just not. And so I remember kind of I don't want to say going along with it, because I literally every single day was raging about it. But I was like, okay, fine, shut down for 2 weeks. We're going to ramp up the healthcare system, right? That's what I was anticipating, that they were going to expand for the wave, right? Mm-hmm. And then 2 weeks in, and there's nothing. We've got one hospital ship sitting off the coast of New York. And they, the Samaritan's Purse had built some tents in Central Park, and that was it. And it was like, what is going on here? And then it's like, oh no, we need 2 more weeks. But then no, we're not actually expanding the healthcare capacity whatsoever. So that was when I started to get, it was like 2 weeks. I was like, okay, what is going on here? Yeah. What is happening?
Yeah, it was when I started having asthma attacks. Not because of the COVID, but because I was just in this state of constant, fight or flight incredulousness that everybody was so fucking retarded all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And I to this day, I look around at humans And I say, most of you are a serious mistake. But we're out of time. And I really hope we get a chance to do this again soon, because there's so much more to talk about where all this is concerned. One of the other topics that hopefully we can get to in the future is the propaganda apparatus on Nextdoor. I don't know if you're familiar with that social media platform, Nextdoor.
So funny. I have the ring, right?
Yeah.
And I have rings. And I know. Trust me, I know. I'm gonna get like I'm gonna get at least one DM about that. But so I get the notifications all the time, and the people are insane. Okay, they crack me up. But I have actually found it useful sometimes when there are like big booms and I don't know what's going on.
Well, if you know them, that's great. But on Nextdoor, one of the things I discovered was that there were real nurses telling absolute lies about their patient load in their hospitals.
Oh, I know about that as well, because my ex-husband is a PA, and he used to be a Green Beret, and he did a lot of studies with infectious diseases, or a lot of work in areas around the world with infectious diseases and whatnot. So he was like from the get-go, and that's probably another reason why I was much more relaxed, because he had dealt with Ebola before. So he was definitely not scared the way other people were. He was like super serious, but right away he was like, okay, something's off, because he knew the organizers of Pennsylvania, and they had actually brought in a lot of like materials. They were set up. They were ready to go, like the actual National Guard. And then they just got ghosted by the federal government. And so these guys are just sitting around, and they're like, what the hell is going on here? This is weird. And so that was when, he was like, okay, something, this isn't right. And
yeah.
Kind of,
So do you feel like you could have a theory about, like,
I've got lots of theories on COVID.
yeah. Okay. So I'm out of time. And so let me just go ahead and tell you, of course, all of the stuff at tulipblooms.shop was created with lack of poison in mind. We discovered that there's poison in our food, in our air, in everything that goes onto our skin. So we invented Rainfall, the very best lotion the world has ever known, a soothing, healing aloe base and food grade plant oils and a few drops of vitamin E oil. We're sending you, Mel, because lavender's your favorite, we're going to send you the Rainfall, we're going to send you the body butter, and we're going to send you the liquid soap. And hopefully you like them. And then we can get you testifying to them and all that great stuff. tulipblooms.shop. That's tulipblooms.shop. Get your presents for Christmas while supplies last. Mel, it has been an amazing pleasure to talk to you today. Let's do it again soon as possible. And I wish you a wonderful rest of your day.
Yes, thank you so much.
Bye, guys.